Good morning, dear hearts. We are on lesson 115 in our review, our third review. Please subscribe. And at this point, last year in this review, I stopped because there had been questions about the practicing. So I think I'm just going to go over it briefly now. So we have two lessons to review each day. And it is suggested, strongly suggested, even instructed for us to use one of the lessons as soon as we wake up, as soon as possible when we wake up, to go to our lesson book, go to our workbook and practice for 5 minutes, and possibly at least that, because at this point you may even want to go in deeper and deeper into the practicing. So for 5 minutes, consider the first lesson. Today, the first lesson is salvation is my only function here. We'll get to that later. And then throughout the day, on the hour, practice that just by saying it. It doesn't take a lot of time. We don't have to spend a ton of our effort and our energy towards it. Simply remember to remind ourselves that salvation is our function here, my only function here. And then at the latter part of the day, to spend 5 minutes on the second lesson of the day. Again, it can be more. Just make sure it's a time when you can be quiet and still and really delve into the lesson and what it is indeed teaching us, and how it will help in your practice, how it will enhance your practice. And on the half hour, all through the day, a quick reminder that my part is essential to God's plan for salvation. And that's it. That is the practicing for this review section. It's not terribly time consuming. I mean, it's basically 2 minutes every hour, and then another 10 minutes, 5 in the morning, 5 towards the evening hour. The evening, I love that word, evening. Many of you know that. So, how much time is that really that we are asked to spend on this? And yet, that minuscule amount of time, when you consider the entire day of activities and what all of us go around and do, the busyness of this world, that small amount of time can have a huge impact on our life and on our thought system. And that's what we're here to do. So our first lesson for review is salvation is my only function here. And I tend to emphasize the word here, because here, salvation, which is synonymous with forgiveness and happiness and true perception and atonement, here they are required. It is required, because here I am not at home. Here I find myself and believe myself to be in the world, the ego land world. So because that's where I believe I am, salvation, forgiveness, happiness, true perception, atonement is my function here, and it is necessary. My function here is to forgive the world for all the errors I have made. Make sure you notice that line. The errors that I have made. It isn't out there. Again, I haven't said it for a while. It's an inside job. So for the errors I have made, for thus am I released from them with all the world. When I forgive myself, when I see myself as the sinless, guiltless, perfect child of God, I have forgiven myself, and I know myself to be indeed an extension of the mind of God. I know that I am spirit, spirit I am. The lesson I have blended in the past with, again, lesson 39, that my holiness is my salvation. It blends very well, but we also had lesson 62, not in the first 50, but it was that forgiveness is my function here as the light of the world. Forgiveness is my function here. I need to forgive. Salvation is my function here. We've already said salvation, forgiveness are indeed synonymous. Salvation has many terms that we can use to just expand the meaning of it, because it is one of those words that is not always welcomed to some minds. As I've said many, many times, and I'm sure I will again, that for many, the word, just the word salvation is a trigger. So we can substitute that forgiveness is my function here, and indeed it is. Our second lesson here, remember here, our second lesson to review is my part is essential to God's plan for salvation. My part is needed for God's plan for forgiveness. Forgiveness of who? Forgiveness of the entire world that I have made and put my errors upon it. My part is definitely essential and needed, necessary, required, because it was really of my own doing that I placed all of these errors of my mind on this world. So how can it be undone without me, since I'm the one that did it? I need to recognize that indeed my part is essential. From the first 50, we can use lesson 38, that there's nothing that my holiness cannot do, because in lesson 38, the first line of it says that your holiness reverses all the laws of the world, and it is beyond restriction of time, space, distance, and limits of any kind. So my part is essential for God's plan for salvation, and it's because that my holiness is what can indeed be used to have the idea, have the concept, have the thought of salvation come into being, that everyone will recognize it, and all of us will experience the freedom and the liberation that salvation, that forgiveness, that atonement brings to all. I am essential to the plan of God for the salvation of the world, for he gave me his plan that I might save the world, because my holiness that was bestowed to me by my Father reverses all of the laws of this world, and it will uphold the real laws, the laws of God, the only ones that are really, truly true. And I'm just going to bring in briefly a lesson that is yet to be for us as we go through this, but lesson 186 was salvation of the world depends on me. And you can see how that's going to weave in. It is up to us. It is that inside job, but the good news is we are so very, very capable of achieving it. And I just want for the moment to go back to the introduction to the review, because I do love them, and the last 4 lines of the introduction said, do not forget how little you have learned. Do not forget how much you can learn. Here's the one. Do not forget your Father's need for you as you review these thoughts he gave you. The need our Father has for us, because our part is essential to his plan for the freedom, the happiness, the joy, the forgiveness, the atonement of this world. And that's it for today. I hope it helped. Please like, please share, please subscribe, please comment, please listen to the birds, please smile. There's so much to smile about. Take in a deep breath, release everything that is not wanted at this moment and is not in alignment with your happy thoughts. And please pray for all minds to have happy thoughts. Namaste.